ready to go. I actually don't quite remember where we left off. So, well, apparently, oh yeah. Cosmos was under attack, he said, because we were nailing him on the in the trial, and then was to be continued. So we're wondering how many more swerves there are going to be to the story.
He seems to be a questionable character.
Yeah. Director Cosmos, a new possibility has been presented by the defense. They are claiming that you were this third person. Ah, forgive me, I'm so sorry. And he's a misunderstanding. So the great pioneer of space development is revealed to be just another fabulous cur. I only have one question for the likes of you. Shall I send you off quickly or very quickly? The evidence doesn't lie, Director Cosmos, so don't try to talk your way out of this. Fine, I'll tell you the truth. It's all just as you say, Mr. Wright. It's true that I was there in the boarding lounge. I got there before Detective Army, and when she arrived, she fired warning shots at me. I was afraid people would mistake me for the killer, so I escaped to the control room. And then went past the elevators and all the way around to the boarding lounge 1 again. I came up behind Detective Army and pretended to be the second on the scene. What a troublesome old man you are, with such convoluted deeds and thoughts. I see. So then, are you still insisting that you did not kill the victim? Of course I am. When I arrived at the lounge alone, I saw the true killer. The great Yuri Cosmos was a history-making witness.
Hold it! Who was it?
Now hold on just one moment. We just proved a few minutes ago that the third person that Mr. Starbuck and Miss Aura Blackwell saw was you. No, it wasn't me. I saw the person as well. If I were the killer, why would I lie to cover for Starbuck? I would just leave him to take the fall. That is an excellent point. All I wanted to do was protect Starbuck. I said I was in the control room to invent an escape route for a third person. Well, it makes some sense if he told these lies to cover for Mr. Starbuck. Still, a lie is a lie, Athena. So the Director Cosmos claims he's not the culprit. But where's the proof? I just remembered. I have an alibi.
Oh,
really? Miss Blackwell said that she saw the killer at 10 a.m., correct? Yes, and? Well, I was on the 4th floor helping with the evacuation effort. Ask any member of the staff you'd like. They'll corroborate me. The director is not fibbing to the court for once. I confirmed that he has an alibi for the time specified. So you're claiming that Miss Blackwell saw the killer commit the crime first at 10 a.m., and that you were at the lounge after that. Yes, and I believe the person I saw is the same person that Miss Blackwell saw. Although it was pitch black, so it was more of a shadowy figure and less of a person. And I couldn't actually see their face, but it was definitely the silhouette of an Earthling. As long as he has an alibi, we can't very well claim Director Cosmos was the killer. Mr. Starbuck. Your Honor, the defense moves to have the director testify about the person he saw. Very well. Director Cosmos, your testimony, please. I hope Mr. Wright says something like, F it, Edward did it. As I tried to enter the lounge, the true killer inside fired a gun at me. I hid to avoid getting shot. But when I tried to get another look, they had vanished into thin air. I was near the elevator side door, and well, the launchpad 1 door and the control room door should have been shut tight to the killer. So you were shot at by the killer as well, and then they disappeared. Yes, though luckily no harm came to my glorious body. Unfortunately, the bullet hit Terran's oxygen tank. I know because I heard a pang. That must have been the sound of the tank being ruptured. Wait, but I thought the bullet hit his metal. That was Detective Army's bullet, remember? Right, what a mess this is turning into.
Yes.
Let's see. Director Cosmos is claiming that when he found Mr. Terran and his killer, the culprit shot a 10 caliber bullet at him. Right, but it actually hit Mr. Terran's oxygen tank and ruptured it. And then the killer disappeared and the director went into the boarding lounge. The Detective Army caught up and fired those warning shots at him. Judging by his medal, it looks like one of them almost took him out too. Good summary, but that doesn't explain where our mystery killer went. Director Cosmos, I was wondering if you could elaborate on when the figure disappeared. I'm ashamed to admit I tried to hide myself when I was shot at, but when I peeped back into the lounge, the real killer was gone. I rushed into the lounge straight away to investigate, but what I found was Terran with a knife in his chest and Starbuck out cold on the floor. So we have a culprit who vanished from a scene that had no escape route. Vanished without a trace. It's truly like one of the great mysteries of the cosmos.
Silence!
A riddle of the ages indeed, but I'd rather know how a fibbing leech such as you can be lauded as great. A great man is always misunderstood in his own time, but he must remain true to himself, even if those around him don't understand. Wow, that might be the first true statement he'd said all day. But how do you suppose this person managed to vanish so suddenly? Simple, because it was Spaceboy himself. When he was spotted by the director at Aura, he quickly feigned unconsciousness. That would certainly take all the mystery out of the idea of a vanishing culprit. I want to raise an objection, but I don't have any counter-evidence. Director Cosmos, when you saw this person, did you also see Mr. Starbuck on the floor? No, because it was as dark as a black hole in there. I didn't see Starbuck until the other person vanished, and I entered the room. That wasn't exactly helpful. I'm prepared to accept your surrender, right, Dono? I can't find any holes in this testimony, but I can't give up. Mr. Wright, why don't you let me help? Huh? While the director was giving his testimony, I detected a cacophony of discord. Which means he's hiding his true feelings from us, huh? This just might help us find out what happened to our vanished killer. That'd be great, Athena. Let's see what you can do with him. You got it, boss. I wouldn't want to miss this chance to delve into a great mind. You're a Cosmos preparing to hand over the secrets of your heart to me. I was shot to enter the lounge. True killer inside fired a gun at me.
He was surprised, he's scared. I mean, that seems normal.
Yeah,
right?
and a little mad, which, I mean...
Actually, it's okay.
Yeah. I hid to avoid getting shot. But when I tried to get another look, they had vanished into thin air. Well, there's no shock on his face at that point. I was near the side elevator door. And while the launch pad 1 door... and the control room door should have been shut tight to the killer.
Yeah, no, that's
Yeah. Talk about mixed feelings. He must be trying to account for a number of contradictions. Mr. Wright, maybe this time we shouldn't just look for contradictory emotions. We should also look for emotions that should be there but aren't. Yeah! I guess it shouldn't be a surprise that his mind is a convoluted place, too. He must have felt very shaken and distressed at the time. Let's focus on the fluctuations in his emotions and see what we can uncover. So I think it's not being shocked that he vanished, because I'd be shocked.
Got it!
You must have thought it was very strange that the killer vanished into thin air. I did. That kind of thing just doesn't happen, usually. And yet, at that time, you barely registered any shock at the occurrence. What? Why are you... You weren't surprised by the killer's vanishing act. You must have had a good idea of where they went. Isn't that right? What? No, of course not. That's preposterous.
It's the door. They had access to it. He's not shocked that he says it should have been locked locked tight for the killer.
But basically, maybe the killer is able to go
Yeah.
through there. Only I can enter the control room. And the area beyond the launch pad door was filled with smoke, making it impassable. As for the southern door, I was standing right there. So there's nowhere for the killer to run to. Maybe or maybe not. You went into the room to check on Mr. Starbuck and Mr. Terran, yes? What if the culprit took that opportunity to silently slip out through the southern door? I highly doubt it. As you recall, right after I entered the lounge, Detective Army came rushing toward it herself via the southern hallway. Anyone trying to escape through there would have been caught by her. And yet the director wasn't surprised the killer vanished. So you're absolutely sure there was no escape route for the culprit to use? It's working, boss. One more punch and it'll be a knockout. There seems to be one more motion that's at odds with his testimony. Go get him. Okay, back in the Matrix it is. Time to pinpoint our way to victory.
Here.
Shocked here too?
Yeah, because if it's not one of them, he shouldn't have been able to get out.
I do think it's weird that he's sad before for the Launchpad 1 door and then not here. Let's try Shock here, though.
Got it!
When we view your emotions alongside your testimony, we find the unexpected emotion. Wait a minute, there really isn't anything strange there. I don't know, but maybe we made a mistake. Okay. Unexpected emotion. Let's go with the sad. Because I don't know why he's sad all of a sudden.
Got it!
Correct me if I'm wrong, but you seem to be afraid of the Launchpad door. The Great Yuri Cosmos, afraid? And what basis do you have for that outlandish accusation? Whether I have any basis or not, you seem quite distressed by it. I'm most certainly not. Director Cosmos, there's something about the Launchpad door you're not telling us, isn't there? Wow, he's speechless. It looks like you hit the nail on the head, boss. I'll just input those 2 pieces of data, and yes, just what I wanted to see. Presto changeo, let's Discord. It looks like we're on the right track. Thanks, Athena. Now to make sense of what we've learned. Dr. Cosmos wasn't surprised that the culprit suddenly vanished from the lounge, which points to the possibility that he knew where the killer had escaped to. Furthermore, talking about the door to the Launchpad made him uneasy. In other words, he's probably hiding something about the Launchpad 1 door. When we put those 2 pieces together, only one solution to this puzzle comes to mind. Dr. Cosmos, did the real killer escape through here? The Launchpad 1 door?
That was the controller.
Because he... Well, let's see. If she was here, and he hid in the control, then I guess it's here.
Take that!
The culprit went through the Launchpad 1 door to escape, didn't they? Yes, I mean no. Disaster to starboard. We're going to crash into an asteroid. Master tactician you are not. But the area behind the door was filled with smoke, wasn't it? True, but this is still the only logical answer there is. If we can just figure out what the director is hiding about the Launchpad 1 door, we should be able to iron out the logical inconsistencies. But that door requires fingerprint recognition. Only Starbuck, Terran, and I have access. I don't see how the killer could have opened that security lock, do you? That's an easy one. The killer was right there in the boarding lounge, meaning there's a way he could have easily gotten past that security lock. Come to think of it, we did examine the prints on the fingerprint recognition device. I propose that the killer used this person's fingerprints to get past the security door.
Isn't it Starbucks up there?
I think it was Starbuck.
Was it Starbuck or the dead one?
Or Terran. God, I wish I could look at my thing right now.
We found one of their. Maybe it's the dead one. Well, no, because he couldn't have. He was passed out.
But here's the thing: wasn't he helping Solomon out? This wasn't he the one who had him on his? I mean, I say that, but I'm not actually 100% on it. Maybe he used Trucy's. Let's just take a stab. If it's not him, it's gotta be Starbucks.
Take that!
Oh boy.
You got a haircut on.
Ah, but the hair came back. That person's fingerprints were now found on the device.
And it's Starbucks, I think. But Starbucks works there.
Yeah. So, hold on. We have the evidence, right? There's Starbucks prints. Okay. That's enough. Free haircuts are to be gotten on your own time, Mr. Wright. Yes, Your Honor, though I can't recommend Barber Blackwell if you value your head. Okay. Okay, so let's go with Starbuck.
Take that!
That's... Mr. Starbuck was lying unconscious there in the boarding lounge. Anybody could have easily gotten past the security lock by using Mr. Starbuck's prints. And actually, Mr. Starbuck's prints are exactly what we found on the device's screen. Ah! It looks like he does have something to hide about the Launchpad 1 door. And I'm betting it's got something to do with the culprit's escape route. But I don't have enough information to see the whole picture yet. You know, something just occurred to me. Would you like to hear it? Huh? Oh yeah, by all means. The security camera in boarding lounge 1. Right, the one that recorded the victim and the defendant. What about it, Your Honor? If the true culprit escaped into the Launchpad 1 corridor, then that might be recorded on the security footage as well. Then the mystery would be solved. What do you think of my logic? I hope you didn't strain your faculties too much for that, your baldness. I beg your pardon? Look, if we play the security footage beyond this point... Oh yeah, it went off, right?
Oh yeah, because it blew up.
Oh my, the footage cuts off. The camera was running on backup power, but apparently the power cables were damaged. Most likely by the after effects of the explosion. There is no footage after this, be it of criminals or space aliens. And I thought it was such a good idea, too. Just because your grandchild is watching from the gallery, it doesn't mean you should try to show off too much Grandpa Baldness. Prosecutor Blackwell, how did you know about my grandchild? I think his grandchild just learned a little about the harshness of the adult world. Setting aside the issue of grandchildren, I'd like to have the witness continue. Director Cosmos, could you tell us more about when you entered the lounge? If I must. To avoid getting shot, after the killer vanished, I went into the lounge. And that's when Detective Army appeared from the elevator side door. Okay, I'd be shocked, because right now I'm freaking out, and the detective shot at me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you see, the killer could have only escaped to the launch pad, right? Well, why is he sad about going into the lounge? I don't think so. Okay. Well, it's still the sad after effects. Well, he's really shocked about that. He's actually more shocked about that than the detective shooting at him.
Maybe he's shocked to see her.
Maybe he thought he saw her and was shocked to see her come from the southern door?
Got it!
Yep. I mean, I don't know if my reasoning's right, but... Director Cosmos, why were you so surprised when Detective Army found you and again when she fired? Isn't that a bit unnatural? Sadly, even great men such as myself had ordinary human feelings. Our bodies are bound by the forces of gravity and emotions. Even a great man such as myself experiences surprise on occasion. Yeah, I'm sure you do. But my real point... It's not the fact that you were surprised, but rather what you were surprised by. Pardon me? First, you were surprised when Detective Army found you in the lounge. And just after that, you were of course again surprised when she shot at you. But considering what you were surprised about, a strange phenomenon occurs here. Director Cosmos, what is strange about your surprise reaction is the fact that you were surprised twice, not surprised by something else, more surprised when Army came. Yeah! Sure, you were surprised when Detective Army shot at you, but the surprise you felt when she found you in the lounge was much greater. Gah. The fact that you were more surprised by simply being found than by being shot at suggests to me that you were conflicted about whatever it was you were doing there. The enemy has acquired a new weapon. Commence Operation Hide Under Your Desk. Ah! Please tell me I finally sunk his battleship.
No.
No, not quite.
Not closer.
Yeah. Boss, I'm getting less Discord now. That must mean he really is hiding something about that launchpad door. And why is he hiding something? Is it because of that thing that turns? And whatever he's hiding most likely has something to do with the killer's escape. I wonder what it could be. If he was doing something suspicious around that door, maybe we can spot some change between before he came to the room and after. Detective Fulbright gave us a photo taken after the crime. Let's run a comparison. let's see. This is a footage of the door before Director Cosmos arrived. So I think this is going to what you've been saying all along. Somebody twisted that.
Oh, balloons, I guess.
There is a change. Something's definitely different. Director Cosmos. What is it? What have you two been up to over there? Finding the answer to what you were doing when the tech department found you, that's what. And that answer lies clearly in this footage. All we have to do is compare it to the photo that was taken during the investigation. Don't be ridiculous. If you really do have an answer, you'd have pointed it out already. This is what changed.
Take that!
The answer is this knob. Ah, that's... Your Honor, please take a look at this footage. Let's see. Take a look at the knob next to the launch pad door. As you can see, it's horizontal. Yes, it is, isn't it? However, when we investigated the scene of the crime yesterday, the knob was vertical. And what does that mean? It means that sometime between before the director arrived and after, someone turned this knob. Ah! After the scene was discovered, you were the only one who could have turned the knob. Come on now, Director Cosmos, let's hear what you have to say. What were you trying to do by turning that knob by the door? Fine, I'll admit it. You're right. What? I did turn that knob. The knob is a safety lock meant to keep the launch pad in place. I was afraid there would be more explosions, so I wanted to move the launch pad away. You want to do what? Hey, didn't Ponko tell us something about how they prepare for launch? She said that once the launch pad's fully assembled, it's moved to the launch site. But the safety lock in the boarding lounge had to be disengaged first. I guess that clears up what that knob was for. Oh, so if the killer escaped into the launch pad 1 corridor, maybe they were transported along with the launch pad to the launch site. I don't think so. The launch pad 1 corridor was filled with smoke. I don't think they could have escaped through that corridor. So then where did the killer escape to? I guess there are still some things we have to uncover. Director Cosmos, I request that you tell us about moving the launch pad in more detail. Fine, but listen carefully, for I'm about to give history-making testimony. This is an interesting little thing. I had no choice but to disengage the safety lock, which he's very happy about. I feared there might be more explosions. So I had to cut the launch pad loose. Surely the only escape the killer had was through launch pad 1. He's mad. But the area was a sea of smoke. Confound it, where on earth could they have gone? Well, it makes sense that he's mad that he can't figure it out, I suppose? He's a little mad about this. Why is he happy about the first thing? Was he happy that he was able to do it, maybe?
Got it!
I had no choice but to disengage the safety lock. You make it sound like you were reluctant to do so, and yet when you did it, you felt some joy, as if you were very pleased with yourself. Ah! How do you do it? How do you know everything as if you were there? Pretty impressive, isn't it? This is the power of analytical technology. So care to explain why you felt joy when you disengaged the safety lock? When I think back on the facts we've discovered up to this point, I have to believe that you were trying to fulfill some hidden agenda. Ah, how do you know about that, too? Because I'm more or less a pro at guessing. But you have no proof that I have a hidden agenda. And even if I did, I would never ever tell you, so there. I know they say people regress as they grow older, but you, sir, take the cake. And how could you doubt a man with such great intensity, intelligence, and integrity? What the heck? That's like Kurt Angle's motto. 3 eyes. When he was a wrestler, he's like intensity, integrity, and intelligence.
He's inspired by him.
He's Kurt Angle older. I didn't know he turned into this.
Silence!
You, a man of integrity? Don't make me laugh. Prosecutor Blackwell, what came over him all of a sudden? You've spouted nothing but falsities since you stepped up to this stand. You're not the kind of man that will be glorified in the annals of history. Not for greatness, anyway. Unless you consider greatest barefaced liar an honor. Liar? Gulp, his words bite harder than his blade. You moved Launchpad 1 after the explosions? My, how naive you are. You fail to realize how even the facts themselves have betrayed you. You know, just a thought, but modern English can be your friend. And here's a thought, immediately following the bombing. Launchpad 1 was on the boarding lounge 1 side. The police confirmed this on scene. What? Liar! So that means the director didn't move the launch pad? Curse my judgment for calling history's greatest liar to the witness stand. Let us leave him to indulge in his lies and war games to his heart's content. Liar! But it doesn't make sense. You can't deny that someone turned that knob, and once the safety lock was released, I'm sure the pad must have went somewhere. If we chase down the truth of this issue, we just might find where the killer escaped to. Ah! You're sure it must have went somewhere? We just might find out? Your arguments are nothing but conjecture, bluffing, and wishful thinking. Stop chasing your fantasies and see reality for what it is. Yeah. Talk about hitting below the belt. Youngins these days. I don't understand it. I'm sure Director Cosmos must have moved the launch pad. The knob was definitely turned after he came to the lounge. But the launch pad is right where it's supposed to be. Arr! Wait a minute, maybe I have it all backwards. What if the director turned the knob not to move the launch pad away, but to bring it back to where it was supposed to be? What are you blathering about? What if the launch pad was at the launch site before the incident, and then after the incident, Director Cosmo moved it back to its usual spot? All he had to do was turn the knob to call the launch pad back, and it would be right where the police found it. Gah! Arr. You make him sigh like Mr. Starbuck. Was what I really said that off base? It pains me to have to explain how wrong your own logic is to you. However, our great liar turned the knob only after he discovered the crime scene. Indeed, the pad existed beyond the lounge when our Astro Wonders made their escape. A fact that has been recorded for posterity on filmless film. Alright. So to reiterate, stop chasing your fantasies and see reality for what it really is, boy. Get a grip, Mr. Wright, and focus. We know the launch pad must have been moved, but our deductions and the actual facts of the case are in direct contradiction to each other. Well, maybe the two astronauts never actually boarded the rocket. This footage could be fake, taken with body doubles after the incident or something. On second thought, that's too far-fetched even for me. Never actually boarded the rockets. Hey, wait a minute. Maybe, just maybe. Huh? Prosecutor Blackwell, what if I told you that the two astronauts never set foot inside the launch pad area, but instead went into another place? And what if, when the director moved launch pad 1 back, it was not from the launch site, but from another place? What would you say then? Cut the existential bull, or I'll cut you. Mr. Wright, you will explain yourself at once. I know I'm right. It was all the other way around from the beginning. Very well, Your Honor, let me explain. Director Cosmos' reason for moving Launchpad 1 was to hide it, to switch it with another place, to trap the true killer. Let's say to trap the true killer. Nope. Because he wanted to trap the true killer. Right, Donut, need I remind you there was an explosion, and that the corridor between the launchpad and the lounge was thick with smoke? If the killer had been trapped in there, they would have been found as dead as their victim. I guess you're right. Well, I'm glad we both agree. Now here's a penalty for you, Mr. Wright. Jeez. Okay. So it must be to switch it with another place? Because he wanted to switch it with some other place. I'm sorry, did you just say switch it? Well, what could he possibly have switched the launchpad with? Oh, you'd be surprised, Your Honor. All it takes is a little thinking outside the box and the answer becomes clear as day. This is what he was switched with Launchpad 1. The Space Museum?
Take that!
Launchpad 2. It has all the same features as Launchpad 1 and can even be moved to the launch site. Meaning the Space Museum and Launchpad 1 can only be switched with each other. You can't mean the rocket the astronauts boarded was not the one in Launchpad 1. It was the one in the Space Museum. What? It's Balderdash! And yet, it's the only explanation that accounts for every riddle and inconsistency. This is how the Space Center was just before the incident. I see Launchpad 1 and the Space Museum have already switched places. That's right, and with the two switched like this, the astronauts entered the Space Museum from Boarding Lounge 1. This allowed the true killer to enter Launchpad 1 from Boarding Lounge 2, and set the bomb on the rocket. Come to think of it, the door to the Space Museum from Boarding Lounge 2... Welcome, welcome. The Space Museum is open to the public every day, 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. Exactly, anyone can pass through the door to the Space Museum. There is no fingerprint recognition system on that door. In other words, with the two launch pads switched like that, someone other than Mr. Starbuck could have easily planted the bomb. Gah! After setting the bomb on the rocket, the culprit snuck into the Boarding Lounge 1 and waited there, concealed, in order to kill Mr. Terran when the two astronauts emerged from the Space Museum. Recall that Miss Blackwell, Mr. Starbuck, and the director all saw a suspicious figure, who, we can suppose, after killing Mr. Terran, made their escape into the Space Museum. After that, Director Cosmos switched the two pads without realizing the killer was inside the Space Museum. The killer then left the Space Museum and made a clean getaway. Ah! Right, Dono, I see you know how to handle a sword and handle it well. Perhaps I should call you Swordmaster Bluff. I'm a seasoned warrior who has cut down many a prosecutor.
Silence!
But unless you can prove your theory, it's no better than a rusty sword. That's right, you have no proof I switched the launch pads. Somebody needs a better anger management counselor. If the launch pads really were switched, there must be a record of it somewhere. At this point, Launchpad 1 and the Space Museum were switched with each other, so the corridor behind the door should be the one that belongs to the Space Museum. Let's see, this is an image of Launchpad 1 corridor. Do you see anything different when we compare it to that security footage? I mean, I see that.
Okay.
Oh, the number! The number, yes! Huh? The number on the floor. Well, what do you know? It looks like we have proof after all, Prosecutor Blackwell. And if this is just another bluff... Oh, don't worry, it's all right here, right in this footage. Proof that beyond this door is a corridor to the Space Museum. Very well, then. Answer this for me, if you will. What in this footage proves that the corridor belongs to the Space Museum?
Take that!
There's a 1 on the floor to the Launchpad 1 corridor. But take a look at the floor of the corridor in the security footage. Do you see the number on the floor behind the astronauts? It doesn't look like a 1, does it? That's because what you see, it's actually part of a 2. What? Why is it a 2 and not a 1? Because that's the corridor you see. That's because the corridor you see is the one to the Space Museum. Gah! Ah! And so that means the corridor in this footage was not filled with smoke. That's right, because the explosion didn't occur in the Space Museum. The explosion occurred in Launchpad 1, on the side opposite of the Space Museum. And now that we know the two astronauts escaped from the Space Museum, the mystery from the previous trial of how they got down the ladder is cleared up. Mr. Terran, carrying Mr. Starbuck, simply took the elevator from the upper level down to the middle level. Just incredible, the two launch pads were actually switched. But you'd think someone would have noticed an event of this magnitude. Everyone was down in the basement shelter when the launch pads were switched back. There's no way anyone could have known what was happening on the surface. So there we go. So we'll find a good stopping point since you got called out and retired. No more lies, it's Director Cosmos. It's high time you told us the truth. Yeah! My honor, my glory. Everything is slipping away. Time to deploy my ultimate weapon. Galactic Engine! What? It's gone haywire! It won't stop! Ah, my star is my glory! No, not that way!
Oh my.
A meltdown? We don't even know who... Are we at the end of the trial? Bailiff, on your steed and after... On your steed and after that witness? Okay, let me see if we're at the end of the trial before we save, because I feel like he only does that angle and point when it's over. I see we managed to retrieve you before you came to any bodily harm. Dr. Cosmos, do you admit you switched the launch pads? I admit it's true. I switched launch pad 1 for the Space Museum. It is good to hear words I can believe for a change. Before you do, Your Honor, 2 things. First, we don't know if Mr. Terran had prior knowledge of the switch. As for Mr. Starbuck, he was unaware of his surroundings thanks to his medication. Either way, Mr. Terran would have realized the instant he stepped into the Space Museum that it had been switched with Launchpad 1. So my first question is, if the Space Museum was perfectly fine, why didn't Mr. Terran feel the need to put on such a dramatic display? As for my second question, I'd like Director Cosmos to tell us why he switched the 2 launch pads to begin with. Please, I exercise my right to remain silent, but I will say my hands were tied. I was only doing what I could to keep my men from getting caught in that blast. The director is terrified. He must have one heck of a reason for not wanting to explain why. Probably not a good time to try to pry it out of him, huh? Excuse me, but would you mind if I picked up my stars? Without my badge of rank, I'm nothing. I don't see why not. Bailiff, help the director retrieve his stars. This is quite interesting. It appears the possibility of a culprit other than the defendant has presented itself. Mr. Starbuck, is there anything you wish to say? I don't get it. Don't get it? What don't you get? Director, why did you do all that? From the very beginning, you never meant for the launch to go ahead, did you? You tricked us. Mr. Starbuck? Mr. Starbuck, my boy, I'm sorry. I can't tell you the reason why. But I had to do it to protect the Space Center. Director? Will I ever get the chance to go into space again? This is going to be a 2-part case, isn't it? Yes, of course. I won't rest until it happens. I will get you into space again, my boy. So I don't think he did it, at all. Then the dream is still alive.
Silence!
You're not going into space, Starbuck, but prison. I won't have it any other way. Well, why are you so hung up on him? Yes, I accept that the launch pads really were switched. And if there were a third person at the scene, I suppose they could have escaped. But I have yet to see proof of this third person's escape via the Space Museum. Oh, that's a good point. He's right, I don't have any proof. Starbuck, you will spill everything you know. What? Me? Ugh. Where did you get those bombs? Tell me now. If you don't, my blade shall feast on your blood. Yeah, if I'm going to die, I want to die in space. I have to do something. Solomon Starbuck, prepare yourself. Oh, that must be Fulbright. Ha ha ha, now you know violence isn't the answer, Prosecutor Blackwell. That annoyingly cheerful laugh. It can be none other than... Champion of Righteousness, Bobby Fulbright here. In justice we trust. Detective Fulbright. Sorry to keep you waiting, Mr. Lawyer. I hope I'm not too late. I don't believe we had an appointment. I tried to hurry, but I ended up helping a little old lady cross the street. And then I had to break up a cat fight. I tell you, just as sure as a full-time job. Was it a fight between cats, or... Yeah. Why are you here again? Because the defendant isn't the culprit, and I came to make sure that justice is served. I don't know what you're talking about. Fulbright, I always thought you were a bit touched in the head, but have you finally succumbed? No, but it looks like you've succumbed to this phantom of yours. Open your eyes and let the evidence of justice uncloud your judgment. What evidence? Come to think of it, he did say something about finding us some evidence. Yep. I didn't think he was serious, though. So what is it, Detective? Is it something that will prove Mr. Starbuck innocent? It is indeed. Have a look at this. What's this, a lighter? That's right, a lighter thought to have been used by the culprit, no less. The Space Museum's cleaning robot picked it up. It has the victim Clay Terran's blood along with his killer's fingerprints on it. What? Order. Detective Fulbright, can I assume that the fingerprints don't belong to the defendant? You bet, Mr. Starbuck is totally innocent. This is it. This is just what I needed. Your Honor, this is decisive evidence that supports the defense's earlier claim. Explain yourself, Mr. Wright. What? With pleasure, Your Honor. Recall where the lighter was found. Based on that, we can extrapolate that after the killer murdered Mr. Terran, they escaped with lighter in hand into the Space Museum, where they dropped it. The switching of the two launch pads occurred. We're like so close to the end, babe. It just feels weird to end it right now. Then finally, the killer left through boarding lounge 2 and made their escape. Meanwhile, Mr. Starbuck was found in boarding lounge 1 after the murder, a fact that Director Cosmos has testified to. Therefore, Mr. Starbuck couldn't have possibly been the one to drop the lighter there.
Silence.
But the defendant had free reign of the area until Director Cosmos appeared. Could he not have dropped the lighter to the Space Museum during that span of time? You'd like that to be true, wouldn't you? But Director Cosmos testified that right after he saw the mysterious figure with a lighter, he went into the lounge and found the unconscious Mr. Starbuck. In other words, Mr. Starbuck wouldn't have had time to double back to the museum. No, Prosecutor Blackwell, this lighter could only have been dropped by the real killer. Most importantly, Mr. Starbuck's fingerprints were nowhere to be found on this lighter. I think you understand what this means, don't you? This piece of evidence... This does indeed appear to be decisive evidence that proves the defense's claim. As for the remote switch that was found in Mr. Starbuck's pocket, we can assume it was planted by the killer on the unconscious Mr. Starbuck. No, there must be some mistake. Frankly, Prosecutor Blackwell, I've been worried about you. You've been chasing this phantom for 7 whole years. I understand your urgency because tomorrow... Fulbright, you promised never to speak of that. Huh? Tomorrow? What about tomorrow? Given the body of evidence, I think it's safe to say the defendant is innocent. In light of the fact that it was impossible for him to have committed the crime. A few unanswered questions remain, so I look forward to seeing what you two uncover. But for now, this court finds the defendant Solomon Starbuck. Second one's going to continue. There's something with Blackwell.
Well, remember, the girl's his sister.
The girl's his sister.
He's got some history with her, and she's got history with Floyd.
And he wants Starbuck convicted big, and Fulbright... I mean, that's a very convenient piece of evidence. So I'm wondering about this. Mr. Wright and Miss Sykes, thank you, and please thank Apollo for me too. You all are the best. Ew, I wish we could tell Apollo about Mr. Starbuck's verdict right now. Yeah, me too, but that's going to have to wait. Now that a verdict has been reached, I'd like to bring today's trial to a close. Court is adjourned. And we still don't know why, when we were going to get Detective Army, that
Objection.
Tetanate went and, killed her. You can't object after the verdict. It's too late to object, isn't it? It simply isn't possible. Something's wrong. Prosecutor Blackwell, are you dissatisfied with the verdict? Fulbright, what were the results of the fingerprint analysis for the lighter? The results? Ha 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 ha. Well, I was in a hurry, you see, and then there was a cat fight, and well... I kind of got carried away when I heard the prints were in Mr. Starbuck, so... You have yet to read it. Prosecutor Blackwell, can you read out who the prints belong to? Upon thorough analysis, the fingerprints were found to belong to Athena Sykes. So says the report. What? What? Huh? Me? Order, I say, order. Miss Sykes, tell me you have an explanation for this. We just finished proving that this lighter could only belong to the killer. So finding your prints on it can only lead us to one grave conclusion. I don't know how they got on there, but I know I'm not the culprit. This can't be happening. We built up our argument piece by piece, and I don't think any of our reasoning was faulty, so how could it have led to this? Yeah, what have I done? Please forgive me, I'm sorry! Order, order, it's not the Fulbright, stop your crying. What in the world is happening here? It's like the world's gone mad. Order, order, I will have order! Wow, that's a cliffhanger. Fusion spiraled into utter chaos. After all we'd fought for, the truth had turned cruelly on us to accuse Athena of the crimes. Somewhere, somehow, everything had gone terribly wrong. We had stumbled over the edge of reason and into the jaws of a twisted darkness. So, here's the thing. Athena seemed to recognize people from those pictures when we investigated. So she knows some stuff that we don't know. So there's a reason. So even though it's like left field, it's like, yeah, there are unanswered questions on that too. So I'm very curious how these things are answered in the next case. And then after that, we go to Spirit of Justice.
Or Simon Blackwell's sister did it, and she's lying about who she saw, and she's the person with the lighter in there. And planted it because she doesn't really like Athena.
No, she doesn't. And yeah, because Athena was like silent when she saw Miss Blackwell.
Yeah.
And we saw her, but we never talked to her again. And I have a hard time believing she's not going to show up again.
She's not nice.
She's not very nice at all.
She treats the robots bad.
And Cosmos is scared, and we don't know why. So this is going to be an interesting one.
And there's some phantom from something prior
that Blackwell is concerned about that he thinks has something to do with Starbuck for reasons we don't know. Plus Tetonate. Which I can see why it would seem like Cosmos' hands are tied, because whatever this is, that Tetonate guy wasn't just some dude who murdered her. Like, there's some kind of motive we don't know.
There's a reason he did this.
Yeah. So, sometime when you're more awake, because you got called out last night, we'll go into all that. And so, okay, that was very interesting. That's why I didn't want to end it yet, babe, because I'm like, we're near the end. Yeah. So, all right. Well, I am very curious about this next episode.